Alrighty, this time I promise the deck is not going to get you kicked out of your tables. This is a basic-ass mid-range pile, and it should be treated as such. What's up, guys? My name is Suris, and I make budget Magic the Gathering decks for Commander that can dominate tables without dominating your wallet. If that's something that you think is important, then consider subscribing to the channel and maybe letting a couple friends know what I'm doing over here. Today, we got something super simple, and I mean like baseline simple. Cazur and Ukkima, a set of commanders that I have been kind of fascinated with for a little while because there's just not a whole lot going on here. Ukkima's got an explosive ability if it ever happens to die, and Cazur has the ability to throw 1/1 counters on the cards that you have on the board. They are both nightmarishly overcosted for what they do, Cazur costing 4 when this effect usually costs like 2 or 3, and Ukkima costing 3 when a basic-ass unblockable creature normally costs 1 mana. They are overcosted, however, they are in my favorite color combination, so I think we can make them work. I mean, a lot of people have built these commanders before, so we should be able to do it on a budget pretty well. Before we get into anything else, though, I want to go ahead and talk about y'all's fan art, and this one comes from Cricket. They said it's a sticky note Suris, which, I mean, yeah, it's a Suris on a sticky note, so that makes sense. The next one comes from the Scarlet Necromancer, and they said that they saw that a villain uploaded Lego Suris on the channel, and then they wanted to go ahead and make FNAF Suris. So there's definitely a different era of the internet that this is giving me vibes from. The whole Sonic.exe thing is bleeding through here hard. And then we have this last one from Cassie Lynn, and it's honestly pretty adorable, I'm not gonna lie. As always, thank you all for your fan art submissions. If you want your fan art to be shown in a future video, you can drop it in the fan art section of the Discord. I also want to let you guys know, once again, that we do have 2 channel playmats available, and those are linked in the description as well. If you want to rep the channel and support me while you're doing it, then these are a fantastic way to do so outside of using Mana Pool, which of course is a sponsor of this channel. Alrighty, that should be just about everything taken care of. Now we can go ahead and talk about these mid-range silly dudes. So, Cazur and Ukkima. These guys are classic. They've been around in Commander since, well, about the time that I started actually playing Commander as a format and not just as a thing that I was forced into by people that I didn't want to play games with. So, we've got Ukkima here. He's got Unblockable and the ability to explode, and Cazur, who gives 1/1 counters to anything that manages to deal combat damage to your opponent. Now, this obviously means that we can run Unblockable and flying creatures, but we can also run creatures that are gigantic and have trample in order to gain access to those 1/1 counters. So, Emil the Vastlands Roamer will be a way to grant our creatures trample and also allow us to make fractals as a secondary option for summoning creatures that can punch our opponents. Draina, Liberator of Malakir, gives all of our creatures a 1/1 counter when she punches somebody, and she's got first strike, so she'll hit first, and then our creatures will gain 1/1 counters, then they'll hit, and then Cazur will give them counters. Then we have Necropolis Regent, who is a stronger version of Cazur, giving all of our creatures a 1/1 counter equal to the damage they deal to anyone. Windy Constrictor and High Score both increase the number of 1/1 counters that creatures receive, with High Score giving us a little bit of draw power on top of that if we happen to have the biggest creature on the battlefield. Then we have Wild Growth Archaic, which will grant any creature an extra 1/1 counter based on the different colors of mana that was spent to play it. So for instance, if I spend all black on Necropolis Regent, it's getting 1/1 counter, but if I spend Sultai on it, we're getting 3 1/1 counters. And because we got so many creatures that are doing 1/1 counter things, I figured why not go ahead and lie to you? This deck actually does have Discord in it. I am a trickster. No, actually, it's a single card that discards cards whenever our creatures punch people. That's it. That's it. If you happen to play it, cool. If you don't draw it, nobody's gonna side-eye you for the rest of the game. It's fine. It's fine. You won't be crucified unless people realize what you're doing. This grants rogues extra 1/1 counters, but that's not super necessary for what the deck is doing, because it sees any creature that has a 1/1 counter and turns those creatures' pummelings into discard, which is maybe just a little bit evil. Then we have Thrumming Bird, which can proliferate the 1/1 counters we get, and is also an evasive creature in its own right, and a Feywild Visitor, which gives all of our commanders the ability to spawn a 1/1 blue fairy whenever one of our creatures punches an opponent. Now, it should be noted that this card says Commander Creatures gain this ability, so in the world where we have both of our commanders out, we are spawning up to 6 tokens every single time Feywild Visitor is on the board with both of our commanders, and we hit everybody with one of our creatures. Now, there is a bit of a caveat here. If we have Double Strike, we can up that up to 12, but I don't really have any way to do Double Strike in these colors easily that I've included in the deck at this budget. But if you find some ways to do it, let me know in the comment section below. I'm sure one of you will be degenerate enough to do that. And evasive creatures do struggle with getting in there in a deck like this because sometimes your opponent will wipe them out before they can hit. So let's go ahead and run Skateboard, Strider Harness, and Lava Spur Boots as ways to guarantee that our commanders will have haste and will be able to get in there and do their job. And now let's talk about some of our larger evasive creatures. We have the Sepulchre and Diluvian Primordials. Because this is a mid-range deck, being able to yank cards from the opponent and cast them ourselves is a great way to swing things in our favor. Mid-range is a strategy that is a mixture of control and aggro, so why not go ahead and have evasive creatures that can aggro and use your opponent's cards against them, especially if they have removal cards. Then we have Dazzling Sphinx, which can deal combat damage to a player to take a single instant or sorcery from them and cast it for free. Now, there is an important caveat here. You see, like with anything else, this has to make face with the opponent. And if people see Dazzling Sphinx, they're gonna go ahead and knock it out. I promise you, nobody wants to see their cards used against them. So when I hit somebody with the Sphinx and it starts yanking cards off the top of their deck in order to yank one of their instants or sorceries, I mean, sometimes I'll hit a board wipe and rip everything apart, and other times I'll hit a card that they desperately needed for their strategy. So you're going to really want to attach haste to this guy, I promise you. And then we have Stolen Identity, a card with Cipher. So this makes us pay 6 mana to create a clone of any creature on our board, like this one or this one. And then after they hit an opponent, we can create another copy of, you know, any of these cards, or any card in our deck. But these ones make our opponents the most mad, I promise you. So make copies of these guys. And in the event that we run out of any of our resources, let's go ahead and summon them right back with Aberrant Return. This will let us get 3 creatures from any graveyards and put them on our board at the low cost of giving them all 1/1 negative counters, which we will then circumvent with our commander instantly. Then we have Afterlife from the Loam, which can reanimate a creature from every single graveyard, which is a fantastic way to make tempo swing in our favor. We have a Victimize for taking one of our little guys like a Thrumming Bird and converting it into a couple of big guys like the Primordials, and then we have a Writ of Return, allowing us to return any creature card from our graveyard to the battlefield tapped, but oh, it's got the Cipher ability built in, so anytime one of our creatures punches an opponent, if this is encoded under it, then we are going to get another copy of this effect, stealing more things from our grave and throwing them right onto the board. Once more, I would like to suggest that if you can get Double Strike into this deck somewhere and not mess things up in the mana curve for it, then the Cipher cards are going to be really funny, because getting 2 reanimates every time you punch somebody is hilarious, honestly. Now, this is where I'd like to make mention of Archpriest of Shadows, a card that I really like including in Sultai Midrange. However, the card's starting to get more expensive. It used to be a 20-cent card, and now it's at $1.50, so I can't really throw it in here at all, and that's honestly a little sad. So, Wizards, please reprint and make more cards with the backup mechanic. I really think the backup mechanic's super fun, so give me more of that so I can abuse it, please. Anyways, hopefully the strategy seems clear. Get unblockable creatures on the board, punch our opponents with them, and then get extra counters on them in order to punch them harder in the subsequent turns, and use cards that let us eke out an advantage over our opponents. And that creates kind of a problem. In order to eke out advantage, we need to draw cards, so y'all have no idea how much I love this card. I have jammed this thing in so many decks, budget or otherwise, and I am always impressed at how well this card works. Brawlios of Ferris Brand gives you an extra draw and an extra land drop every turn, while simultaneously being a big boy who hits hard if unblocked. This thing is incredible in Legendary Matters decks, in Land Matters decks, in combat decks, in aggro decks, and it's also great in mid-range. There's very few decks I haven't been able to just jam this thing in and gotten good success with it. So I'm going to jam it in here, and it should work just as well. And, of course, whenever we're in the colors for it, we can include the other Brawlios, Bonnie Paul. Now, of course, Bonnie Paul's bow token is the thing that has the extra power in this case, but Bonnie Paul does give us the ability to draw even if we're not attacking with that token, which means we have a lot of added benefit we can work with. You see, Brawlios really wants to have haste to give you benefit very, very quickly, and we have haste in the deck, so that's fine, but sometimes we just have a Looter Ilcore out, and we just get to swing with it with Bonnie Paul out in order to draw extra cards. Speaking of that, I should probably talk about looters. We have Looter Ilcore, we have Wharf Infiltrator, Shoreline Looter, and Dreadwing Scavenger. All of these allow us to, either when they hit or when they attack, draw a card and then discard a card. Dreadwing Scavenger becomes a Death Toucher later in the game when Threshold is hit, and Shoreline Looter gives us access to, well, not losing our cards after it's hit a certain number of times. Wharf Infiltrator also can give us colorless Eldrazi creatures if we discard creature cards and we're willing to pay extra mana. Sometimes that's going to be relevant. Most of the time, it's not. A card that isn't a looter is Shadowmage Infiltrator. It just draws us a card when it punches people, but it also has fear, so this thing tends to not get blocked all that often. And then we have Coastal Piracy, and Coastal Piracy, but it's a stick, and Coastal Piracy, but it's a thing that goes on the coast, and Coastal Piracy, but it costs 2 less mana and has creatures that aren't from fucking Magic the Gathering in them. All of these cards will generate us card advantage whenever we punch people in the schnoggin, which is exactly what our deck tries to do. Then we have a Combat Research in order to let us draw extra cards when we hit people, and an Ingenious Prodigy, a new card from the new Strixhaven set that has Skulk, so it's really easy to get in there and punch people, and it enters with X/1/1 counters. And at the beginning of our upkeep, if it has a 1/1 counter on it, we can remove one of those counters to draw a card. So hopefully you kind of see what the loop's going to be. Punch somebody with a Prodigy, get a 1/1 counter with our commander, and then the next turn draw a card with it, and rinse and repeat, and do it every single combat that you can. Then we have Jolreel, Voice of Zhalfir, which creates a land. Well, it turns a land into a bird, and then that bird is as big as the cards in our hand, and then that bird draws us a card whenever it hits people in the face. Honestly, Jolreel's another one of those cards that seems to be an overperformer in just about every deck I jam her in. Finally, we have the Striding Shotcaller, which has reach instead of any other evasion, but it says that when one or more of our creatures deal combat damage to a player, this creature becomes prepared, and its prepared spell is Run the Play, which puts a 1/1 counter on every creature we control, as long as we can pay that many creatures into the X, and then it also lets us draw a card. So at worst, we're paying 2 mana to draw 1 card, and at best, we're dumping all of our mana that isn't being spent on removal into extra power for everything on our board, which can be really fun when we've got cards like High Score and Winding Constrictor to amplify the amount of 1/1 counters this is granting, while also being a pretty good draw spell. I will admit, though, this one's a little experimental. I want this one to work a lot better, so as I've been testing, it hasn't really come up in any of the mulligan hands, so we're gonna see. Hopefully we get it in the Moxfield test on this video, so I can test out about how this is gonna run. Everything else in this deck is something that I've tested pretty thoroughly in other decks. This one is the new guy. Or I guess that blue Phyrexian Arena wannabe is also new, but like, it's a creature with Skulk in a combat deck. I figure it's going to work just fine. We have access to blue, so let's run some good blue removal, like Brush Off, which is a negate sometimes and a full counterspell other times, depending on the amount of mana we spend into it. Disallow, which allows us to block any amount of types of things, whether it's a spell, activated ability, or a triggered ability, and Void Slime does the exact same thing. While Void Slime is a little more, hard to cast because it desperately wants us to have the right mana, this allows a slight bit easier because of its pipping. Honestly, both of them require 2 blue, so yeah, you're going to be holding up 2 islands, and your opponents are going to think you're going to be doing terrible things to them like any other game of Magic. Then we have the Fanekeeper Familiar, a card that can blow up enchantments, gain us life, or counter creature spells when we need it to. And then, of course, it is a creature that can start generating counters when it punches people. Then we have Kellen Quinn, the Inquisitive Prodigy, or, just Kellen. This thing allows us to get an extra land drop and let us get a clue early in the game, and then later in the game, it's a Vigilance dude that can punch people and give us access to artifact destruction. It can also blow up our own clue to draw a card, but that's neither here nor there. It's usually not happening. Then we have Trigon Predator, which is a stronger version of the exact same effect, giving us access to artifact and enchantment removal. And then we have Caustic Wasps, a much older, much weaker version of this effect from a set that nobody liked, but this card actually deals combat damage and destroys a artifact that the player we punched controls. So a lot more restrictive than what we have otherwise in this set, but we don't have that many versions of this effect in the game, so you gotta pick and choose your battles. Then we have Eldest Reborn to make everybody sack a creature, discard a card, and then reanimate a creature. That reanimation is the main reason I want to use this, because a lot of the time when I play Eldest Reborn, somebody ends up knocking it off the board, meaning that they spent enchantment removal on that and not one of my Coastal Piracy effects, which is a-okay by me. Then we have Kinetic Ooze, a card that enters with X/1/1 counters, as long as we spend a lot of mana into the X. If X is any amount under 5, we blow up an artifact or enchantment with mana value X or less. If it's 5 or more, we get to add drawing a card onto that, and if it's 10 or more, we get to add doubling the number of 1/1 counters on all of our creatures onto that effect as well. This is functionally a removal piece that sometimes operates as a cantrip and sometimes operates as the deck's Craterhoof Behemoth. In any one of these scenarios, Kinetic Ooze is going to do you a lot of good. Then we have the Bliss of the Sunslayer, a card that I have adored from Pioneer, which I forgot existed until just now because Wizards of the Coast won't fucking support it, and I'm gonna be honest, I'm gonna have a crash out. Please, dear God, I really want to play Pioneer, and this card is one of the reasons I want to play Pioneer. I like Golgari Rock. Please let me play Golgari Rock. I'm begging you. Anyway, it's got First Strike and Death Touch, and when it deals combat damage to a player, we get to draw a card and lose a life, or blow up an enchantment, or cuck a Planeswalker. And then we have Binding the Old Gods, which is 1 part Destruction spell, 1 part Ramp spell, and 1 part argument not to block our creatures when this thing goes off fully. Honestly, I used to not like Binding the Old Gods. I used to think it was way too slow for what it did, and then I realized I like Beast Within. And this is just Beast Within and Nature's Lore having a baby, so I'll take it. Then with all the 1/1 counter shenanigans we're running, we're going to run Wave Goodbye because it's going to be asymmetric removal in most scenarios to wipe a board out. In Garruk's Wake, which is always asymmetric removal, which destroys all creatures we don't control and all planeswalkers we don't control. And we're in green, so we should be able to afford it most of the time. And then we have Vicious Rivalry, a new card from Strixhaven, which has the Toxic Deluge effect of being able to sink life into it to make it blow up bigger and bigger things. And the things it blows up are all artifacts and creatures with mana value X or less. This will always wipe our board because we are very low to the ground mana-wise, but if I am backed into a corner and I'm casting a board wipe, having 1 symmetrical board wipe that can also get rid of people's soul rings is a-okay with me. Alrighty, let's talk ramp. And in a perfect world, you're not running the 2-mana ramp spells like Glimpse the Core, Planar Genesis, or Rampant Growth, or Sakura Tribe Elder, or Arcane Signet, or Farseek. In a perfect world, we mulligan and we find cards like Search for Tomorrow, or, you know, Wayfarer's Bauble, which just looks like Sakura Tribe Elder, but it's an artifact, or Sammy's Curiosity, which just looks like Sakura Tribe Elder, but it's an artifact. It's a sorcery that makes an artifact. Honestly, I would have liked to include more 1-mana ramp in here, but deck really didn't have the space for it after I put in the ramp that I wanted to put in, so we'll make do with it. Then we have Sky Serpent Seeker, which is a 2-mana creature that is nice and evasive and has an exhaust ability to put a bunch of lands from our library onto the battlefield. Then we have Belladros Witherbloom, which makes a bunch of 1/1 tokens throughout the game and lets us pay 10 life to untap all of our lands. I'm not gonna lie, this thing being under $1 means it's gonna be an auto-include in a couple of decks from here on out. It's very hard for me to argue with the power of having a lot of draw power and then just being able to reset my land base whenever I damn well choose, and those tokens are going to be great combat creatures. If they block them, I get my life back from Belladros, and if they don't block them, then they're going to get bigger with our commander. Honestly, I can't see where this goes wrong. Then we've got our basic land suite of 5 islands, 5 swamps, and 6 forests, with our Dimir lands being Untapped Sunken Hollow, Tainted Isle, Choked Estuary, Darkwater Catacombs, and River of Tears, with our Golgari lands being Vernal Fen, Necroblossom Snarl, Tainted Wood, Woodland Cemetery, Twilight Mire, and Viridescent Bog. And you'll notice something, I didn't include the temples here, and, well, when we get to Flooded Grove, Dreamroot Cascade, yeah, that thing's under $1 now. That's fantastic. Yavimaya Coast, Sodden Verdure, Overflowing Basin, Hinterland Harbor, and Vine Glimmer Snarl. Yeah, you notice a bit of a pattern. We're not running temples here, and that's because we kind of don't have to. As I was testing the deck with temples, I noticed that the deck is very, very dependent on having a good mana curve out. It wants to have a 2-mana ramp spell early, and then it wants to be able to cast that, and then get Cazur out, and then not have to worry about anything after that. Ukkima might come out, Ukkima might not come out, but because of that, I really didn't want to run too many lands that come into play tapped. And another thing, now that Sodden Verdure is out, now that we have access to every single one of the Tango lands available, and all those Tango lands are available at budget, it's very hard for me to put the temples in a deck if they hurt the flow of the mana as much as they do in here. In an Aristocrats deck or a full-on Reanimator deck where I'm planning on having a weird wonky mana curve that's either really low or really high with cheating, then I can justify them a little bit easier. But in here, it's a bit harder to justify them when these cards exist, and they get yanked out with Binding of the Old Gods as well, and Farseek. Likewise, I'm not running an Evolving Wilds in here like I normally would. Typically, I'd run one because Tainted Wood is a card that really wants to see a swamp, but I can tutor out a swamp with Farseek or Binding the Old Gods, because Binding the Old Gods can just grab, you know, a land that has forest on it and swamp. So I don't think I need the Evolving Wilds as much here, and I can just kind of lean into better mana sequencing for this deck. And then we have Command Tower and Exotic Orchard as the standard Omni land includes. Honestly, the land base in here feels way more solid than anything that I've been able to make in Sultai colors before, and I think most of that comes down to the fact that Sodden Verdure and Dreamroot Cascade are now available at budget. And, well, that's just fantastic. I hate to wax lyrical about the land thing, but I like budget decks and budget players having access to really good land bases. And I think we're starting to get to the point where the divide between people who have dual lands and people who can't afford dual lands is getting infinitely smaller every single release. There is an argument about the power scaling of that or the consistency scaling of that, but honestly, people having access to playing their cards is just good. That said, that's everything in the deck, so now we gotta talk about how to play it. Alrighty, looking at this opening hand, we don't have a ramp spell, which I'd really like, but we do have something that I think is super interesting. We have 2 lands, so we have access to all of our colors because one of them is Command Tower, and we have a Looter Ilkor. Classically, I would keep a 2-land hand if it had a Surveil land or a Scry land in it, because that gives me a bit of selection to make up for keeping a greedier hand, and I think that that's going to hold true here as well. Holding onto a Looter Ilkor means that we should be able to dig to get the 3rd land, and then we'll be able to play Ukkima or the Dreadwing Scavenger to select our hand perfectly, and then we're kind of off to the races. We draw our first card, and it's the Striding Shotcaller, and I'm going to be honest, I'm not super thrilled about drawing this one, but it does give us some extra draw if need be, so it's fine. Let's play that Command Tower and pass. Next turn comes up, and my faith in the cards is rewarded with a Forest, which will not help us cast Ukkima or Dreadwing Scavenger. I got what I wanted, but the monkey's paw curled. It's fine. Let's go ahead and play Looter Ilkor and see what happens. Next turn comes up, and we draw yet another forest. What the fuck is going on here? There's only 6 of these in the entire deck. What are you doing to me, deck? Okay, fine. Fine. It's fine. Let's attack with... You know what? No. Let's hedge our bets. Let's get that Striding Shotcaller out. Let's punch with Looter Ilkor, preparing the Striding Shotcaller, and then we get to draw a card. It's another fucking forest. It's another fucking forest! How? There are 6 of these in the entire goddamn deck. Why are 4 of them coming up right now in the very beginning? What kind of randomization bullshit is any? Okay, anyway, whatever, it's fine. It's fine. We've prepared run the play. We can make up for it in a minute. We have the ability to fight out of this. It's fine. It's fine. It's fine. It's fine. Let's go ahead and play that forest, pass to the next turn, and we get Wave Goodbye, a card that is uncastable because it has 2 blue pips. Okay, I'm getting punished for all of my decisions right now. I get it. I understand. It makes sense. It's okay. I think we're going to play this forest. Tap out, and we're going to go ahead and play Cazur. This means we can punch with the Looter Ilkor and get a 1/1 counter on it, drawing a card and discarding a card, and thank God it's a swamp. Oh, sweet heavens, I'm so happy to see this thing. Man, okay, finally, we have some other colors to play with. I was just so happy about this mana base. Why did it decide to throw 4 of my 6 forests at me? Whatever, it's fine. Turn 5 comes up, and there's there's the island. Okay, fine, whatever, I get it. At this point, it's way more important for us to have the extra blue mana, and I'm kind of torn here. So, Striding Shotcaller would give us a decent bit of stuff if we used it right here, but there's an argument for playing Ukkima. But we can't, we can do both, though. No, we can't. No, we can't. The mana does not allow us to do both. So I think overcommitting to the board is a silly fool's gambit. So let's not do that. Let's tap 1, 2, 3, 4. Striding Shotcaller is going to put a 1/1 counter on it and a 1/1 counter on the Looter Ilkor and draw us a card. Hey, Darkwater Catacombs. I would have loved to have that land this turn. Oh, well, that's fine. Let's hit with the Looter Ilkor. And draw a card and discard a card. We have a swamp in hand. We don't need it. Let's throw it away. We're all good now on our colors. We have everything we need at this point. And because the Looter Ilkor hits, it's going to go up to 4. And then we're going to go to the next turn where we get to play that Darkwater Catacombs. I should have probably used the Striding Shotcaller's ability to give my commander a 1/1 counter. In fact, I think I'm going to... Nah, I made the mistake. I don't know why I didn't spend that mana. That was a stupid decision. Because I want to play Wave Goodbye right here, but I can't do Wave Goodbye right here and get anything good out of it. So, okay, what can we do instead? We can do Stolen Identity. I think Stolen Identity is fine. We cast Stolen Identity, we get a copy of Looter Ilkor, and then we get to attack with Looter Ilkor, getting a 1/1 counter, and then making a copy of Looter Ilkor. Drawing a card and discarding a card. We can discard the Vine Glimmer Snarl. And we have the Thrumming Bird now. You know, honestly, this is a very aggressive hand. This is a nightmarishly aggressive hand. Like, check this out. When turn 7 comes around, we can do the Thrumming Bird. We're probably looking at a board wipe at this point, honestly. Nobody's going to let us keep a board like this at all. So it's probably really, really pertinent for us to hold on to everything we can. So I think what we do is we summon the Thrumming Bird, and then we hit with the Looter Ilkor Brigade, and then we get to create a copy of the Thrumming Bird after drawing and discarding multiple cards. As for what we're discarding, we don't need Dreadwing Scavenger at this stage of the game. Aberrant Return means we can toss the Dazzling Sphinx. And a Lava Spur Boots would be really, really good. I wish we had that earlier. We get extra 1/1 counters on everything because that's a thing that the deck is able to do now. Let's see here. Awaken the Honored Dead. We're not discarding that. I guess we discard the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I think we discard the Wave Goodbye at this point. I'm not super thrilled about that, but it's not the end of the world. But it's fine. That's fine. We have a pretty decent hand, and let's assume that our opponents are going to try to wipe the board away, and we have to disallow that. It's either that or they're doing some game-ending bullshit that we need to stop. Like, one, the other, or both, right? Next turn comes up, okay. I'm torn. I want to do Aberrant Return, and I want to summon the Sphinx, and I want to make the Sphinx big, but I think not committing anymore to the board is probably better. So we do High Score, and then we use the Shotcaller to add a 1/1 counter to Cazur, a 1/1 counter to Thrumming Bird, and a 1/1 counter here. And there are 1, 2, 3. We don't get the 1/1 counter on Cazur. No, we don't. We get the 1/1 counter on Cazur, not on Thrumming Bird. It's fine. And then we get to draw a card from that. Then we get to attack with everything. And I lied about the 1/1 counters. We actually get 2 1/1 counters for them now because of high score. Now when we swing with Looter Ilkor, we can make a copy of Thrumming Bird. And this Thrumming Bird, that Thrumming Bird, this Looter, this Looter. Bunch of triggers going on the stack right now. Let's handle the draw triggers first. Let's sculpt our hand. We draw the Indomitable. I need the Indomitable for late game, but I need Water. But Waterbender's Ascension is better because I can cast it alongside cards. We draw again. We get Brush Off. It's a counter spell. We don't have mana up right now, so we're not going to worry with it. And then we get to draw again. We don't need the Sky Serpent. We throw it away. We are golden, losing all of those cards. Now, Cazur is going to add a 1/1 counter to this Looter Ilkor. And that's going to turn into 2 1/1 counters because of high score. Cazur is going to then add 1/1 counters here, 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 and here. And then the 2 Thrumming Birds are going to proliferate. Meaning we are going to add multiple 1/1 counters to the entire board. So now, on turn 8, we have a board that is a 12/12 Looter Ilkor with Shadow, an 8/8 Looter Ilkor with Shadow, an 8/8 Looter Ilkor with Shadow, 2 Thrumming Birds that are just fucking ginormous, and this Thrumming Bird right here that has a Proliferate ability that it can use again, and Striding Shot Caller is prepared again, so on the next turn, we can go ahead and get that Thrumming Bird a 1/1 counter. Get the entire board of 1/1 counter, actually, along with setting up Waterbender's Ascension. If we get wiped out, then we cast Aberrant Return and Lava Spur Boots together to get out a creature and then punch people. We get out the Dazzling Sphinx at that point, and then use the Lava Spur Boots. That's our play if we happen to lose our board. If our opponents play something we need to deal with, we're going to use the Awaken the Honored Dead. And if we happen to draw a land next turn, we can use In Garrick's Wake to stop somebody from winning on their turn if they have, like, Ivy Lane Denizen combo without a haste enabler. Anything like that, we've got the answer to basically most problems right now. So aside from the weird land sequencing in the beginning, I'm pretty confident that this would be a very evil board to stare against. It's just straight up aggro guys punching him with a schnoggin. You know, I was honestly surprised to see that Assassin's Trophy has dropped down to 50 cents. I might have tried to find a way to slot it into the deck if I'd thought about that, but it is still an upgrade that you can throw into the deck that I think will do a lot of good. Lowering the mana cost of some of your removal is always great, but if you want to have higher cost removal, that's fine, because you can use Atomize for that, and the Proliferate on here is great for the 1/1 counter strategy. I would also say, because it is a mid-range deck, sometimes we want to ramp into a further play, but still have access to mana, so I would put in the 3 Visits Nature's Lore style cards here so we can cast cards and then follow up with them just fine. I would also trade out, as I'm upgrading, the haste enablers that are in this deck, sans Lava Spur Boots, for the Lightning Greaves and the Swiftfoot Boots. They're just better versions of those cards. I would also swap out 1 ramp piece for a Kami of Whispered Hopes. It's just a Hardened Scales that also happens to be a mana dork that can get nightmarishly huge, especially with the Proliferation and the Run the Play ability that we got to test out in that run through. So honestly, it's just a good card. Draw Engine can be helped out with a Toski. It is a creature in its own right, so swap Indomitable out for this probably, so that Toski can get in there and deal damage himself, giving you better board presence, and he dodges board wipes well enough, so it's fine that he's a creature. Hardened Scales is also good. Honestly, the fact that it's 1 mana is the best argument for running it. It sequences into our plays really well because the deck lacks 1 mana plays, and I'm not a big fan of running the 1 mana unblockables that don't do anything outside of running them in, like, Goro Goro and Satoru. So yeah, Hardened Scales, really, really fantastic for the kind of deck we're running. Enduring Curiosity, for the exact same reasons as Toski. It dodges board wipes really well. It's a creature. It can trigger itself. It's just all around good. If our board is getting wiped, Heroic Intervention is a very good card to add into the upgrade package that can protect our board state. A Baleful Strix can be a very good setup card, giving us access to a flying Death Toucher nobody wants to block that also cantrips itself. And yeah, every single mid-range deck on the planet should be running every single MDFC it possibly can, because your job is to have cards that can deal with your opponent's cards and protect your cards, and these guys do that. They all do that. Hagra Mauling does the removal, Fell the Profane does the removal, Revitalizing Repast and Sing of the Stupor can protect our board. They're just good cards. Run them. And then finally, the Ozolith. It's $70 because of Modern for some fucking reason, but Ozolith is still a fantastic card to run in here because it allows us to do a revenge kill with Ukkima. If we lose our board state, we can then play Ukkima and give it a Lightning Greaves or a Swiftfoot Boots, not even a Lightning Greaves, a Swiftfoot Boots, and then throw all of our 1/1 counters onto Ukkima and swing with it. Like you saw in the gameplay, Ukkima doesn't really come down all that much. He's not super important except for dealing with people who are running a life gain strategy, but Ozolith lets us just pivot into Voltron if you have the money to sink on an Ozolith, or you're okay proxying an Ozolith. And with that said, that's everything I can think of where the deck's concerned. And honestly, it's a really simple deck. Just get things turned sideways and get a good hand to respond to things as you need. Not a whole lot going on there, really. But still a pretty fun deck to run, and I'm going to be getting a budget version of this built up in paper so that I can play it with all my other budget decks that I've got built in paper at the moment. So hopefully you enjoyed it. I'll make any updates to it if I happen to find that it needs any while I'm playing the deck. And without further ado, thank you so much for watching. If you want to pick up the deck, please check out the Mana Pool link in the description. If you've not used Mana Pool before, you'll get $5 off your first purchase. And, you know, if you have used them, it still supports the channel and what I do. So thank you regardless. Thank you for watching. Thank you for subscribing if you did. Thank you for letting some friends know what I'm doing over here if you did that as well. Like, that's going over and beyond for my channel. So thank you very much if you did. That said, I'll see you in the next one.